Yeah, principally, I'm here today to talk to undergraduates. Yes, you just need to learn how to conduct research. And let me tell you something, we are not just asked to run a particular project because we just want to make you suffer. No, we want you to learn how to conduct research work because it is through research that we find answers to questions. It's through research that we find solution to problems. So principally, there are two major types of research work that you would pass through before you graduate, and that is what we call review research or literature review research, and then the experimental research. Now, for the experimental research, for the literature review research, it's more or less basing your work on what people have done, trying to collate data or information from what people have done, and then get to a particular conclusion or get to a particular premise. Now, whereas in experimental research, it's you're going to now conduct your own work and then find answers from your own work. But before you even embark on experimental research, you must have also conducted review research, because you cannot just do anything from nowhere. You must base your work on what other people have done earlier on, what you can infer from what they have done, and then before you do your own. So that's it. So but today's video, I'm going to be concentrating on review research. So peradventure in school, you're asked to prepare a seminar work and then produce a special paper. That's why we are doing this. That's why you have this video. So for first thing, I'm going to give you the steps to achieve this review research, if that is what is expected of you for that particular program. So the first thing you need to do is to formulate the research question, and then the aim and the objectives. And by that I mean that, what is that thing that you intend to achieve? I mean, are there questions? Remember I said the essence of research is to answer questions, to give answers to questions. So are there questions that you want to find answers to? So that's the first thing. Formulate your research questions, and then you need to also justify the need for this particular review. You need to identify the main objectives. Once you have justified the need and you feel that this need is justifiable, this particular thing I want to do, it is because there is no this, that's why I want to embark on this. Once you have that intact, the next thing is to now find your aim. What's your aim for embarking on that particular research? Once you have defined your aim, then you can now give us the objectives. Now, the objectives are the step-by-step things you will do, and once you have achieved those steps, you would have achieved the aim. So you need to get this right. That's the first step, to formulate your research questions, your aim and objectives. Now, the second step to embark on is to search the extant literature. Now, this involves searching the literature and making decisions about the suitability of material to be considered in the review. Not every material is expected to be considered in your review. You need to look at the materials that are actually relevant to what you are talking about, relevant to the question you want to answer, relevant to achieving the aim of the work, the objectives of that particular research. So you need to do this to search out the extant literature. And then here you could also go with two different kind of extant literatures. One is that you can go with the literature that tries to cover everything. That's like an exhaustive review, like you're trying to cover everything within that particular topic. And then another one is to go for a representative review, where you try to pick papers that represent different areas or different subsections. So the choice is actually yours if you want to go for exhaustive review or you want to go for representative review. But by and large, you will still have to conduct a thorough review in relation to what you are discussing. Then the next thing you need to do is to screen for inclusion, and this involves evaluating the applicability of the materials identified in the previous steps that I've mentioned. In this particular case, you need to actually screen to determine the relevance of each of these materials that you have chose. Okay, you could have picked a lot of materials, and I want to say this in literature review. I'm going to do that in my next video. It's going to be short. So in that video, I will show you how to go about finding the content of each of the materials without spending all the time. Let's assume you need to review like 200 papers. You need to review like 200 works or 250 works or 500 works, as the case may be. What do? Would you be reading each of this paper one after another? That's going to be a lot of time. Okay, that's going to take you a lot of time. So I'm going to give you that about some apps you can use to like find the summary and the actual detail what each of the paper talks about, so that you can make your literature can be fast. Now the next one you need to do is to extract data. That's extracting data step. In this particular step, it involves extracting applicable information from each of the primary studies included in the samples. So while you were doing the literature, there are some figures, data that you saw in other people's work. So you try to like extract this data. Okay, you need to extract the data from this person's work, the data from the other person's work, and at the end of the day, this data is actually the key essence of this research, because whatever judgment, whatever interpretation you're going to do, whatever discussion you're going to do is going to be based on this particular data that you have acquired. Now when you are done with that, the next stage is the fifth step. It's for you to analyze and then synthesize whatever data you have obtained. So you get the data, you analyze it, you can subject it to various interpretation models depending on the target of your research. Then you can use some softwares to subject your data into interpretation and analysis. So you can use things like SPSS, you can use things like Excel, depending on your field of study. You can also use some other apps, like if you're in geology, you can use some apps like ArcGIS. You can use so many apps, SedLog, a lot of apps depending on your field of study. So when you've done that, the final thing you're going to do is, now that you have done the analysis, what is your finding from this work? You need to present your findings from the work and then your conclusion and possibly recommendation, because if you think there are still things that should be done in that area, most likely there will still be. You need to also recommend, this is your recommendation, that so things should be done and the other one should not be done, and then you conclude your work. So principally, I'm going to give you the expected chapters that they need to see in your special paper or your seminar paper, as the case may be. Obviously, you're going to have an introduction, you're going to have a literature, where you're also going to have findings and results. That's where you bring up the results that you found from all of those literatures that you reviewed, and then you now discuss the results, the analysis of the results, the discussion, and then the last chapter should be your recommendation and conclusion. So with that, you are done with your seminar, your special paper. And then in subsequent videos, I'm going to show you what you need before you go for your presentation. Okay, tips you need to know, you need to acquire before you go for your presentation, so that you come back with an A. Thank you. Have a nice day.